everything is created twice. First, it's created in the mind and our imagination. And then when we hold it and we believe in it and we water it and we give it food, it will show up here in our 3D physical world.
Today's guest, Trace Haskins, has a couple favorite quotes. The first one is from Neil Donald Walsh. Your life is not about you. It's about everyone whose lives you touch and the way in which you touch them. Trace is a fellow spiritual being having a human experience who enjoys co-creating fun and meaningful experiences with others. He became an entrepreneur at 13 years of age by creating a budding marketing agency that helped new and small businesses grow their brands and plant their seeds in the world. His work is with clients has eventually led him into the world of personal development and spirituality. He fell in love with growth from the inside out and the divine art of creating one's world through consciousness. He's the author of Possibility 101, your quick start guide to actually living a life you love, and enjoys investing his days leading people on their own personal path to living their lives and running their businesses from a clear and consciously chosen purpose, accompanied by divinely aligned visions and goals. And that second quote, it's from Henry Ford, who said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right." As someone who wrote the book, The Land of I Can, it's no stretch to see why I resonate with today's guest. Welcome, Trace.
Hi, Susan. So happy to be here, and thank you. It's very interesting how we met, and it's one of those serendipitous moments where alignment and the law of attraction brings two people together.
Yes. And the way we met, just to let our listeners know, is that we were both on an I Love Marketing call. And anybody who's been on one knows that the chat is very active and people are talking and commenting and communicating with each other. And I saw communication between you and one of the Genius Network members, and you were living in Austria. And I have a trip coming up in Austria with a client. And I was like, oh, wow, this would be great to get to know Trace. And so we reached out on that basis without knowing all the commonalities that we share in our views of the world and people and the way we live our own individual lives. And we've just been connected ever since.
Yeah,
So
it's absolutely incredible to me how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I didn't know you and you didn't know me, but the universe knew that we were supposed to know each other.
Yes. A bigger plan in store.
Exactly. So one of the questions that I'm sure people are thinking, I know I was thinking this, is what in the world is the story behind you at age 13 starting a marketing agency to help small businesses? Because those small business owners were certainly older than you were at the time.
A
How
little
did
bit.
that happen?
It was really a natural process. So all throughout my childhood, I really loved art. Really loved writing. And at some point, I think I was 11 years old, computers came into my life. The internet came into my life. I started meeting people on the internet, and I just sort of started to get into the digital world of art and writing and communication. And my parents actually divorced when I was 13, and we moved to San Diego, California at that point. And that's kind of where things took off because I loved art. I was already kind of developing web pages and things at that point as a hobby. And then we needed an income source. So that's really how the business part of my life began. It was by passion because I loved kind of working in that space, and also by necessity because we were ready to start earning an income. My mom and I, kind of reestablishing a life in a new city, and all the interesting things that came with that. So it really came from a natural process, is the way that I would describe it.
Well, and I love that because you did it naturally. We were talking just before I pressed the record button about intuition, and that I live very much using my intuition. And when you're tuned in, so you were tuned in way back then to know what what drove you in with your love of art, and to find something in this unfolding digital world that matched what you loved to create income. And isn't that the perfect marriage?
It is, a while ago, I would have said that was just complete coincidence, but we know that there are no coincidences, right? So it's law of vibration, law of attraction at work, and just the natural unfolding of things when we allow it to happen, right? So yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. So when were you living in San Diego? What was the span of years? Because I know you still have a home in San Diego, but
Yeah, my mom and I moved there in April of 1997.
okay.
And then I lived there for my teenage years, young adult years, and then I got married in 2003 after meeting my wife, who's from Austria. She came as a visitor, and she stayed with me for a while, an extended stay. And in 2012, we moved our primary home base to Austria. So we still have our now condo in San Diego, but yeah, our primary home base is Austria now. So nice span from 1997 to 2012.
Yeah, that I would love to have the opportunity to be able to live part of my year in a foreign country, like anywhere in Europe would make me happy. So you really have a beautiful setup. But what I'm also recognizing is that I didn't move from San Diego and to the Seattle area where I am now until 2005. So we were both in San Diego at the same time.
Yeah,
Could
you
have
know
bumped
what?
into each other at Balboa Park, and who knew?
E- Exactly. I was going to say, knowing your locations of your bakeries and things, it's like it's interesting that we probably crossed paths who knows how many times,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we just weren't aware. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. In your book, which I do have a copy of here, Possibility 101, and we know that an operative word here is possibility. Um,
Mhm.
you have it's one of the earlier chapters, and you talk about the thought faucet.
Mm.
Can you tell us a little bit about the thought faucet?
I love this topic. Yeah, the thought faucet. Everybody has one of these things, and it is speaking to us all day long. Typically at a raging pace is what my personal experience has been, and working with my clients. And so with the thought faucet, it's important to be aware that it's there, right? We have this voice inside our head that's speaking to us, and it is spewing out thoughts of a certain nature by habit. What I write about in the book is it's really useful to be aware that it's there and to start noticing what sort of thoughts are going on in our mind, because the thoughts that are going on in our mind are triggering certain feelings in our body, and the co-creation of those really helps us create what we're creating in our life, right? So it's important to notice what are we doing, especially if there's a result that is showing up in our life that we're not particularly loving. We can look at that and see what is the cause of that, what's going on here. And I think it's actually really useful to learn how to turn that faucet way down to a drip or even completely off for a little bit through something like meditation. And that allows us to regain momentum in the direction that we want.
I love that. One of the things I thought about when I was reading that is in marketing, we often hear the term drinking from a fire hose,
Mhm.
where we're giving way too much information
I've been
based
accused
on
of that,
what we
definitely.
know, but it's too much for the person that we're trying to
Yes,
help. And I
yes.
thought, oh, that's another way that we put out more than what's needed, and then we need to dial it back. And so just even thinking about that with my own thoughts rather than just the way that I'm serving people and making sure that I'm not doing the fire hose that direction. Is there anything besides meditation? Are there things that you like to, when you're working with a client, to suggest to help adjust the dial on that faucet?
Definitely anything that will calm you down, really. Because we also have two different modes that I feel that we generally live in. One is survival mode, which has a tendency to have faster paced thoughts, and then one is creation mode. So whatever we can do to allow our mind to get quiet is great. Example is our meditation, going for a walk in nature, going for a drive because you have to focus. Those are really the go-to ones for me personally. But it's also having a study routine, because when you're studying, you're growing, you're learning, being made aware of new concepts and things that you might not have been aware of. And even if you know them already, you're being reminded of them. And that all helps you to kind of take back the control over your consciousness, and then again, therefore, where you're creating from. So my most favorite tool for that is meditation, but it took me a while to get there because I didn't understand it. I thought that, I was doing it wrong for the first few years that I was trying it. And then I learned, oh, it's all part of the process. Like that frustrating period where you think that you're doing it wrong and you think that, you can't shut off the thoughts. It's all part of the training. And, you just keep doing it with consistency and it becomes a really great tool. But yeah, there's a few different ways that you can quiet your mind. Staring at a candle, or staring at a dot on the wall, or anything that you can do just to slow your thoughts down so that you can redirect them.
For me, it's walking, and
Yeah.
hopefully walking in nature, but even walking in a neighborhood route type of situation. What happens for me is when my feet start moving,
Mhm.
and often, I'm walking and I have my standard poodle Red with me, and maybe I'm watching him and his reactions to what's going on around him. It's another way that thought process calms down for me.
Yeah, I
And
love
all of
that.
a sudden, what bubbles up are solutions to a problem that's been back and like it's been in my brain, it's been in the
Yes.
subconscious, and my subconscious has been working on it. And all of a sudden, the answer pops out.
You've created a blank canvas for it to go and jump onto, right?
Yes, yes. And when I'm working with clients who are writing their books and wanting to get that focused clarity that we know is required to be able to do the outline, fill in the outline, making sure that everything is congruent and there's one golden message throughout, that to me, it doesn't work for everybody, but to be able to get out and away from the computer,
Mhm.
away from the pencil and paper, however you're doing the writing, and just let nature take its course.
Yes.
And with meditation, for me, I need a guided meditation. I need to listen to a voice that takes me through like the chakras, the body, whatever. And I'm
Mhm.
focused on that voice. And when I'm focused on the voice, I'm no longer focused on my thoughts.
Yes, exactly. You've got it. It just reroutes the momentum. It redirects the momentum and takes you to the present moment. Really, that's what it's about, is getting to the present moment so that you've
Yes.
got all the junk that might be, kind of weighing your mind down.
Yes.
It's all gone. It all disappears. Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, walking is a great way to do that and get into that mode.
Possibility, the name of your book, Possibilities 101, there's a lot of information in your book on possibilities, and you have
Mhm.
lots of different exercises, which I think is great. So it's not just reading something intellectually. And the way I like to read a book like yours is I like to read it from cover to cover and then go back and do the exercises. But,
Mhm.
some people might want to stop and do the exercises along the way. But what's your favorite exercise in the book?
Oh, my favorite exercise in the book. I'd have to look at it. Let me see here. I put them all in there because they're all my favorites. I think they're all required, really. But if I look at, one of the ones that's had a big impact on my life, probably is in chapter 6 on relationship secrets.
Okay.
It's doing an exercise and really tuning into, what relationships do you have in your life right now? Which ones are working? Which ones aren't? And how can you look at that and kind of reframe it and just realize the impact that it's having? That to me has made a huge impact on my life because, one of the famous quotes is, "We become like the 5 people that we spend the most time with." Right, the average of the 5. I think that was Jim Rohn, if I'm not mistaken. And I find that to be true, right? And if we want to kind of get into a new spirit or a new energy, then it's good to have a look at that and then see what changes we might want to make there. So that's been personally for me a really impactful one.
Interesting to me, I don't know if this will be for our listeners, I hope it will be, is moving from San Diego with your wife, who's Austrian born, and living now in an area where her family is. And you and I were talking about that there's special dialects. It's not
Mm.
just getting up to speed with an overall language that each different area in Austria has a dialect. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, well, I guess that's not going to happen for me before I get over there. But what was the difference that you found in terms of surrounding yourself with those 5 people? Did you do it within people that were in your close proximity, that lived in the village and the where your family is, or did you do it by reaching out, because we're in a worldwide environment now where we can talk to anybody just like you and I are talking? How did you surround yourself with those 5 people?
Well, with the 5 people, so it's kind of the exercise is looking at the ones that you're hanging out with now and deciding, do I want to remain or do I want to kind of swap them out, or, without any judgment or whatever. So for me, it's very 50-50. It's the people immediately in the household, in the neighborhood. And then it's also people in the virtual environment, people I might be working with or friends that I might have, that live in a different city. So it's kind of a combination of the two. I was homeschooled in Alaska. That's where I grew up originally. And I feel like my social life began on the internet because, we kind of lived
Ah,
secluded in the hillside
yes,
and stuff. So a
yes.
great deal of my life has been created and lived in relationships through the internet. So I would even say maybe it's more like 80-20, 80% online and 20% in person. For this particular exercise at looking at, the relationships that you want and which ones are working and which ones aren't, it's really in all of the above. It's both, local to you and local to wherever, you might be hanging out, even in virtual communities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm an introvert. And so most of my social interactions take place that 80-20, 80% that you're talking about online and 20% off. That's absolutely true for me, living in a rural environment also.
Yeah.
And of that 20%, some of that is animal based,
Yeah. Oh
with my
yeah. Yeah.
dogs,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I don't know if you can hear, I've got the baby chicks that aren't so much babies anymore. They're 2 months old, that are still here in the office with me. And I think it's going to be warm enough to move them outside this weekend. We've had an incredibly chilly spring, and mother bear, me, taking care of the babies,
Yeah, it's a
I'm
great
actually going
opportunity
to
to spend
really
lots of
miss
quality
not
time,
having them
right?
here.
That's very cute. Very, very cool opportunity.
Yeah. But what to get back to the main point is that many of the people, and I'm sure you see this with your clients, Trace, but when I'm working with people on their books, I really get to know them because they open up to really get the authentic voice that we're looking for. They need to trust me. And sometimes I think they tell me things that they don't even tell their family or their husbands or
Oh
wives.
yeah.
But having said that, they are still in the place of wanting to grow and
Mm,
wanting to develop into the next phase of their life, and yet they're still surrounding themselves with the
mhm.
same people. And what I hear often is that the people that they're talking to about their book or about what they're doing don't understand it,
Yeah.
don't necessarily support it.
Yeah.
And yet, especially if it's a family member, we still need to integrate who we are and how that works with the family as we grow. What would you say to that?
Oh, I say that experience is pretty much unanimous with myself and any of the clients that I've ever worked with. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal to work through that because the tendency is, well, we want to maintain this relationship with the people that we're living with and whoever this applies to, and we want to continue to grow. So it's an interesting kind of energy to work with. And what I usually suggest people do, this is what I did personally, it's what works for my clients in a lot of cases as well, is you kind of go into a bubble for a little while. It might be for a couple of months, it might be for half a year, whatever it takes. You go into this bubble and you just don't share quite as much while you're in creation mode, while you're in growth mode. And you get to this level of understanding and awareness and confidence in who you are and what you're up to. You discover what mission you're on, right? You really do some soul work and you connect. And then from that place, once you feel like you have this bubble of sorts and you're standing firm in that, like you kind of talk about pushing your stake in the ground, like you
Yes.
put that stake in the ground internally, and then you can start to share some more. And you start to become less affected and impacted by whatever their feedback might be, positive or negative, because you know what you're up to, you know what's important. And you can start, like, a big thing for me was learning to accept the adverse opinions and the negativity, and like, okay, well, that's all right. You can think that way. I'm going to stay on my path and do my thing. And what I love is that when you stand in this pure vibrational energy in alignment with who you are and what you're up to, if you're patient and you stop trying to force others to get in concert and harmony with you, they may start to come around after a little bit of time, because your energy will kind of radiate and impact them. So, you know, that's a lot of what my chapter in here on relationship secrets is about with my wife and I. You know, we've gotten through some interesting challenges, and it was getting to that point of interdependence and just being like, you know, we're independent beings with, you know, our own unique goals and perspectives and things, and we're going to do our thing, and hopefully we'll come together and you know, decide to keep co-creating together from a different place than we had been, right?
Yes.
And so that's my advice. It's really allow yourself to go into a bubble, you know why you're doing it, and if the other people don't understand, that's on them. They will eventually, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. You got to have that vision of where you're headed, and even if there's discomfort in the meantime, know where you're headed and stay strong in that. Allow everything to move into form.
I love that, because staying in the bubble also means, we might say we're not oversharing, but staying in the bubble means that we don't need to reach out to other people for approval of what we're doing.
Yes.
We're confident in the direction that we're going, even though we might not know exactly where that is, but to stay in the bubble and just let nature take its course and not seek other people's input other than your coach, other people's input, because they're not going to understand it. And then you may get hurt or be concerned, or you might be wanting to, because a lot of times when we start to learn something new, we're excited and we want to share that with other people, when in fact they're not going to understand yet where we're coming from, and that could affect us. I think we had a really bad windstorm that came through here about 24 hours ago, which knocked out the internet. And of course, then I had to stabilize. Okay, what do I need to reschedule, and what's possible here? But looking outside is watching the trees, you know, swaying and moving. Well, they didn't get uprooted, because I mean they're solid in the ground, so they could move because they were planted where they had decided to be. But the little teeny tiny plants, they might have been drowned or blown away because they didn't have that root system in place yet. So I think the bubble provides the place for you to get really solid in who you are becoming, what message you are about to deliver to the world. And then with that good root system, you can go out, and if people agree with it or don't agree with it, well, then you're just like the tree going in the wind. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a beautiful analogy. Yeah, it's so great. You got to give yourself time to plant those roots and really let them sink in. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video filled with great conversation and stories. Often when I'm working with clients, they have these great stories, but they're not sure how to put them in the book and connect it to how it's relevant. But problem solved. I've created a story mapper book for you, and it's completely free. Just follow the link below to get your free copy, or go to getsusansfreebook.com. So with the name of your book, Possibility 101, I would want to get the number right on there, how many possibilities there are here.
There's unlimited, but this is the basic. It's the starting point.
Let's talk about that. What does the word possibility mean to you, Trace?
The word possibility means that anything is possible. It's basically, to me, it's the creative process. It's tuning into the fact that we can be, do, have, give anything that we want if we will stop long enough to make a choice and decide on that, and then just hold that vision. Speaking of, planting seeds and growing roots and things, a lot of people, they'll plant a seed in the ground, but then after a couple of weeks, they'll dig it up and like, is it growing yet? And then they'll kind of put it back and then they'll dig it up again. Is it growing yet? And the thing is, and literally anything is possible if you will plant the seed and let it grow. You have to, allow that gestation period to take place. And for a long time, with a lot of the ideas that we have and the dreams that we have, whether we're talking about creating a business or anything that we want to, experience in life, there's a little bit of time that typically passes. And as human beings, right, we're spiritual beings having this human experience. The human part of us sometimes has a tendency to be impatient or insecure. And so we'll just dig up those seeds before they have a chance to grow the roots and start to sprout. And so with possibility, it's really the land of I can, right? It's anything is possible. Just believe in it, like come up with an idea that you want to manifest. And as long as you hold it, it will move into form. I know one of my favorite quotes, speaking about favorite quotes, is that everything is created twice, right? First, it's created in the mind and our imagination. And then when we hold it and we believe in it and we water it and we give it food, it will show up here in our 3D physical world.
Yes.
So possibility, that's a long answer, I think, for the word possibility. But yeah, it's really
no,
just what you want.
I mean that's a whole topic. We could probably do a whole segment just on possibility. One of my clients, he set out to do what he called the impossibly big dream.
Mhm.
And so that's that step. Well, is it possible? Well, what's
Yeah.
impossible?
Yeah.
Because nothing is impossible.
Yes.
And so what's that impossibly big dream that is so big, it almost could make you sick at your stomach, or
Yeah.
is so big that it
Those are my
keeps you
favorite
awake at
kind.
night? Like, can I really do that? Can I really do that? Going back
Yeah.
to, well, there's two ways you can think about it. And either way, you're going to be right. Yes, you can,
Yeah.
or no, you can't. So,
Yeah.
so staying in that place of being able to stretch your boundaries is really quite incredible. I was speaking with a woman yesterday who is a therapist, and she does EMDR work, and it's eye movement, and I forget what the DR stands for, but it's trauma work.
Mhm.
And in talking with her, I was telling her about an airplane accident that I was in, and her eyes lit up. Oh, actually, no, I said I was in an accident. And we were talking about what, and she goes, well, yeah, when people are in a car accident. I said, oh, no, it wasn't a car accident. It was an airplane accident. And her eyes lit up. And she said, tell me about that. So I was telling her about it. And she said, I'm a pilot too. And we got off on this whole conversation about when you fly, you have to be in that place of trust that when your instructor says, go practice stalls, go fly off to, this airport and come back again. And you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to take off. And can I really find my way back again? Or will I really be able to correct the plane in a stall? And you think, well, logically, the instructor wouldn't do that. They wouldn't want to lose me as a student. They wouldn't want to lose the airplane. But it's like it feels impossible that they're going to let you do that and that you can do that. And every night before I would go out, this was early on, during the training process, and I didn't have my license yet. And this is part of the training to get your license. But there'd be so many times where I knew what the assignment was going to be the next day, and I couldn't sleep that night. And I was like, my palms were sweaty when I got in the plane after I pre-flighted, and I'm like, okay, Susan, you can do this. You can do this. I mean, it was just like that. And you go out and you do it and you come back and you're so empowered because you pushed that envelope of what you thought was possible for you, and it became real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's such a great way to explain that process with the process of flying. I mean, talk about terror barriers, right? And yeah, you really having that faith in yourself and in the machinery and just the processes that have to run, right, to work in order to, get back safely, especially as a newbie, right? Yeah, that terror barrier. that will stop a lot of people, right? It's like you had the choice when you were lying in bed the night before to be like, you know what? I'm out. I'm not up to this game anymore, right?
Yes.
Or you can make the choice to be like, you know what? I'm going to step outside my comfort zone. I realize it's a comfort zone and it's a growth, and I need to have that faith. And I'm going to trust my skill. I'm going to trust my knowledge. I'm going to trust in the universe to make sure that everything goes well. And then, so it's, yeah, it's a choice that we always have. And it's very interesting to see when we go back into comfort or when we go forward into the growth and actually
Yes.
expand. And now I'm assuming, I'm sure there's some level of what if that takes place each time you fly now. Would that be accurate? These still kind of
Oh,
pop up?
always. I mean, the client that I was referring to earlier that I love working with because his topic is aviation.
Hmm.
And he went out and did his impossibly big dream of circumnavigating the globe in his Malibu Mirage, which is
Yeah,
a
it's
really
incredible.
nice
Yeah.
single engine plane. But then after he did that, and he came back and he goes, okay, I'm done. I've got the first book I wrote, and I'm going to write the book about the journey itself, which was Zen Pilot. And then after a while, he was like, but I think there's more.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
think there's more for me to do.
Yeah.
And so the next envelope to push was to go to a twin engine turbo commander plane, purchase that, learn to fly it, and then begin to outfit it for everything that he would need to be able to do a pole to pole going down to Antarctica, around the world, over the North Pole and back again.
Yeah.
And so that pushing of the limits is something, and he had a lot of fear. I mean, many things went wrong, as you can imagine can happen. Um, but he kept pushing. And I think that's the biggest thing is it isn't like you go out and you fly and everything is always hunky-dory.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
there are times where you have an engine out and all the training that you've been given of going into glide, looking around for a place to be able to land the plane, keeping presence of mind
Yes.
during an emergency type situation. So if you're prepared for it, if you've trained for it, whether that's a mental training, or a mechanical training with an
Mm.
airplane, then you just go into the mode of I can do this, going back
Yeah.
to the I can.
Yeah.
And in the land of I can, in my little gift book, it also says the power is in the knowing.
Mm.
And so when we know that we can do this,
Hmm.
when we know that, in fact, I read something, talk about flying. I read a news story recently about a man who was in a small aircraft and he was flying with a friend who was the pilot. So this man, the story is about, was not a pilot. And the pilot he passed out,
Hmm.
and he figured out how to call air traffic controller and say, I'm not a pilot, but I'm up here in the air with the airplane.
Wow. Yeah.
I need help getting down. And the people got him down, and they said the fact that he could land that plane without any damage, and it wasn't like it crash landed at the airport.
Yeah.
And he stayed calm.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite quotes. Calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. Calmness, it will get you through anything. Like that's like a perfect example of we could label that an extreme condition,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because he didn't go, oh my gosh, I can't do this, I'm gonna die. He took
Yep.
action and
Yep.
figured out, okay, I'm going to contact air traffic control, I'm going to explain to them what's going on. They got somebody on who was a flight instructor,
Hmm.
and they talked him down. And I as far as I know, the pilot, I don't know what exactly was wrong, but it wasn't, he didn't die, he did
Hmm.
recover. So he saved himself, but he also saved
Yeah.
his friend
Yeah.
who was flying the airplane. And it was all done by staying presence of mind and knowing that he could do this. And
Yeah.
going back to the topic of possibility, that the possibility existed that this could have a happy ending.
Yes, that's such a beautiful story. It's incredible, actually. And that is the key. It's like you got to tune into that. There's three different levels I'd like to look at in this realm. There's I think I can, right? I believe I can. and I know I can. So belief is already pretty good when you get to that point. But when you get to that place of knowing, like you're talking about, then it's like there's no other option. And, when we talk about creating life and results and an outcome like that, like safely landing the plane with no experience, right?
Yes.
We do that from a certain level of consciousness. It must be from this high vibrational level of I know that this is possible and this is moving into form, right? I'm manifesting this, in this case, this landing, right? It's, to think you can, it's already good. To believe that you can is super good, but to have that level of knowing, yeah, that is pretty much going to guarantee that you'll move that result into
Yeah.
form. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful when you see something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, starting out at the age of 13 and helping businesses with their marketing. And I know that you have a real passion for video. And I will say that your book, let's see if I can get some photos here. I'll just do the one up front. You did full color
Hmm.
throughout. I know that's an expensive, and you self-published. So I know that using the Amazon platform, that's your profit margin goes to zero just about, because if you have,
Pretty much.
it doesn't matter if you have one color image or color images throughout, they rate it as a book with color. But
Yeah.
I could see your passion for art
Hmm.
because of the way that the book was laid out and with all the beautiful images that are in it. But from the age of 13, going from marketing, helping other people with their marketing, to now, I mean, you're marketing yourself and your work in the world with people, but your work is more personal and spiritual growth oriented to help them get what they want from their lives.
Hmm.
Would you say your mission is? Because this is a messengers on a mission
Yeah.
conversation. What is your mission?
I love it, Susan, because I think there's so much in common with your mission. It's really to help people connect with their purpose and live their life and create or run their business from that purpose. Working with a lot of clients and just kind of watching a lot of different things as an observer in my lifetime, I noticed that people, they set these goals and they grow these businesses without that in the back of whatever they're doing or whatever they're growing into, and they kind of reach the top of the mountain and then end up feeling a little bit empty because that the sense of fulfillment isn't there that they thought would be there, that comes with a financial success or having built this huge business or whatever the goal was. They achieved it, and yet it's like, where is that fulfillment, right? So what I love to help people do is connect with what's really important. What is the one thing that you want to kind of leave here on the planet when you're gone, and live your life from that. And that might mean that you let go of a bunch of stuff. That might mean that you start from scratch again. It might mean that you just make a few tweaks. Doesn't really matter. But at the end of your life, you're going to get there feeling really fulfilled. And that's what is really important to me. So once we have that foundation of purpose to work from, then I help guide people through setting a specific vision, for their business or career, for their finances, for their relationships, for their health, for all this important sub areas of life. And then from there, then we can finally set the goals. Like, okay, what are the milestones that are going to show us that we're on the path, right? So it's kind of like, I feel like a lot of coaches and just people on their journeys, they work backwards. They set a goal without considering what's really back of this, right? So it's kind of like working from rather than bottom to top from the top to the bottom. Like, what's the purpose, and then what's the vision, and then what are the goals? So that's what I love to help people with and coach people with. Is
Yeah.
really, I love to see, the light in the eyes when they feel that fulfillment. It's so great.
I totally agree. And you're right. I mean, we do similar work. Mine is very book focused, but it
Yep.
becomes a transformational process
Yeah.
during that.
And that's one of the great things about writing a book. It's that, you might have a particular impact intention or even, income or business intention with the book originally, but the person you grow into as you create the thing is so great. Yeah.
Yeah, they become different people. And as you were talking about, a lot of people were set on a path, in particular men, but it can be true for women as well. But they were set on a path based on what their parents saw for them.
Hmm.
Maybe the father was an attorney, and so they want their child to be, man or woman,
Yeah.
to become an attorney. And so they became an attorney because of the advice and the, I won't say pressure, although I think that can be true. Sometimes it's more of a natural, like, oh yeah, my dad's an attorney. He wants me to be an attorney. I'll become an
Hmm.
attorney. And then they create this wonderful law practice, and they get to a certain point where they've got the home, they've got the cars, they've got the, commercialized level of success,
Yeah.
but they're not happy,
Yeah.
because what they really liked to do was paint, or what they really wanted to do was write. And of course, their parents would have said, well, you can't make a living doing that.
Yeah. That's an impossible part of possibility, right? Yeah. Hmm.
Exactly. And so it's that dialing back to what are those things that you do just because they're fun for
Yeah.
you to do.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
oh, you mean I can do more of that? Yes, you can. You can do
Yes.
more of that. And so it is like we talk about the digital age, but it's a reprogramming
Yes.
of who we are, and
Yes.
with all those possibilities. And we use the word purpose so often. I know what purpose means to me, but what does purpose mean to you?
Purpose to me means, the reason that you get out of bed in the morning, whatever lights you up and fires you up. And I also believe that it has to do with what really brings you joy, but it's also, how you shine your light for others. So it might be a way that you impact the world, or it might just be a way that you be. And when people are in your presence, they just can't help but light up because you're so lit up, right? So that's, to me, it really has a lot to do with joy, and joy for yourself and for others. That's really what it means to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about for you, Susan? I'm curious to hear your version.
Yeah, for me, it's very similar, but with a slight twist. And that, we were talking about seeds and plants and trees, is I really believe that we are born with a specific, unique purpose.
Hmm.
And we're probably living in that purpose, that joyful place, until we enter school.
Hmm.
And then we start to get programmed into a particular way of being. And
Hmm.
we often, not always, but often can lose that.
Yeah.
And it's a natural thing. We don't have to find our purpose.
Hmm.
It's who we are,
Yeah.
just like
Hmm.
you're saying.
Yes.
And when we can get into that authentic space and have the permission to just
Yes.
be.
That's a big word, permission. So good. Yes.
Permission. Yeah, we have permission to just be ourselves
Mm.
and trust that we're okay. We don't
Yeah.
have to be somebody else.
Yes. Yeah. We can surrender all the conditioning, all the ideas, all the labels, all the concept that society, parents, whatever, whoever, media has put on us, and we can just be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's very scary for people.
Oh yeah. It is.
It's very
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's really only scary because of all the conditioning, right? We've been programmed. The way that our mind works, we have a conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind really dictates how we live our life habitually and how we feel. And to surrender the concepts of what we know, to go to a whole different level of consciousness in a whole different world of possibilities, it's so unfamiliar. It's so outside the comfort zone. It doesn't feel real in a lot of cases to people when they first start to kind of dip their toes into that idea, right? And so it's very scary. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But so worth it.
Yeah,
So
it is. It's
entirely
just
worth it.
getting over the hump of really diving in to discover that there's this whole other world of possibilities that's waiting there for you. And it's really on a different frequency. I learned, I feel like, a lot in my life from Bob Proctor.
Yes.
And Bob Proctor used to talk about levels of frequencies and levels of vibration. And he used to say the results that you have, the life that you're living is down here on this frequency. Simultaneously, there's this other frequency up here, just like a radio station. They both coexist. They're both broadcasting at the same time. And he used to say, there is a place. This frequency up here is a place. So you just need to tune into it and believe in it, and then you will attract that experience to you. And that's it's a huge leap for a lot of people, especially in the beginning of this awareness, to really step into that there is a place that actually exists. You can't see it, hear it, smell, taste, or touch it right now, but it does exist, right? It's an interesting process. And that's what I think you and I help people really move through. It's like, you can get there. You got to realize it's there, decide that that's what you're going to manifest, and then just hold it and take the steps one step at a time, right? The other thing is, a lot of people, they want to see the whole path before they make the decision. Like, yeah, I'm going to do that. It's like, well, I want the whole roadmap. It's like, well, that's not how life typically works. You got to take one step at a time. It's like Steve Jobs said, you can't connect, you can only connect the dots looking backwards, right? You can't connect them looking forward. So then we come back to the faith and the belief and the trust and the knowing again, right? So anyway, I'm
Yeah,
off on a
and I
tangent.
think also, and I love the frequency because I believe so much in that, is that doesn't mean when you move up and up and up in the frequency, it doesn't mean that all this goes away. It doesn't mean that you are becoming, you don't have to get a new name. You don't have to create like a new residence, although some people might, they might find themselves downsizing. But it's the idea of integrating who we are at another level.
Yes.
We're still,
exactly.
It's just creating another identity
Yes.
that is a step above, higher.
And that's where it gets tricky, right? Because it's not necessarily that one is any better or worse than the other. It's just a different possibility, right? And we're back to the possibilities again. But it's just, we have this huge spectrum of possibilities, and we think that whatever one we're on right now, we're pretty much destined to stay there. But that's not true, right? But yeah, it's not a question of better or worse necessarily. That's our perception that says it's better or worse. But yeah, it's different. It's possible.
Yeah. So I love to see that, what I call the new identity unfold, where the integration of everything that's happened up to that point really begins to blossom. It's kind of like, the flower that has sprouted and has all the leaves, and there's a bud there, and that bud might open, it might not open, but when it opens, oh, it's so glorious.
Yes.
And so beautiful. Like you said, it's just so wonderful to see somebody when they are fully open and integrated and have created this higher frequency identity. It is really beautiful. And then that can't help but affect other people.
Yes.
Because when you're doing that, people are attracted to you. And people are going to resonate that are your right people, because not everybody in the world is your right people. But from a marketing standpoint, it really puts a different tweak on, instead of like pushing all this information out, the level of attraction that you are attracting the people that you want to hear your message.
Absolutely.
Really changes things.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, not to get too scientific, but as a spiritual being having a human experience, we have a field that we're really living inside of here on the planet, right? And we have a local electromagnetic field that's local to us, local to our body, our individual identity. And then there's a quantum field that connects us with everyone and everything else. So as we step into this aligned person, our field changes, it grows, it expands, and it sends out a signal, right? It's literally the thoughts and feelings we have are sending out signals and attracting things back to us. So that's kind of the mechanics of how the law of attraction works. Even with marketing, is you show up in a certain way and you naturally attract. And it's very much happening through this invisible field that we have and that we're a part of.
Yes. Yeah. Just like what we were talking about at the very beginning, how you and I met.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those possibilities of connecting with each other, with all the different people. I mean, those I Love Marketing calls have 300, 400, 500 people on them. And the fact that we were in that place of possibility, in that outer field, and Zoom, to be able to come together.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I hadn't been on any of those calls in a while, and something was pulling me to come on. It's like, it wasn't the convenient time for me to be on that call either, but because there were other things going on here with family and stuff, I was like, something's telling me I need to be there. I had no idea it was you, Susan. So thank you for attracting me.
I love it when things like that happen. It's just incredible. And
it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
It's been incredible having you here in the
Thank
conversations with Messengers on a Mission today. I look forward to sharing you with the world and your work with the world. I'll have contact information in the link below. I look forward to meeting you in Austria.
Me too. I can't wait. It's coming up. Time flies when you're having fun. We're having fun, so it's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah.
And we'll be together. We'll do a little video or something when we're together.
Okay. Well, that would be great.
Thank you for today. It's been a lot of fun. And hello, listeners. I hope you've gotten some value out of this today
Okay.
too.
Thank you, Trace.
Thank you, Susan.